Let's quickly talk about the JSON data type or data structure, because when you're working with APIs, specifically RESTful APIs, you're going to deal with JSON all the time. One of the main properties or main characteristics of REST API is the data is in JSON format. It's nothing but a format and it's really easy to understand. The word JSON itself stands for JavaScript Object Notation. It came from JavaScript, I guess, and it is really popular in JavaScript. Like all objects in JavaScript look like that. But in our case, when we're doing RESTful APIs, a lot of times we are going to send some data. We're also going to request some data. And that data format is going to be in JSON format. Other types of APIs like SOAP API will be in XML format. That's one of the biggest differences. There's other differences, but that's one of them. When you're working with SOAP API, the data you send and you receive will be formatted as XML, which I will also show in this video. But in RESTful API, it's going to be in JSON. In GraphQL, it's going to be JSON. If you've done any kind of tutorial in Python, JSON is basically a dictionary. In Python, we call it a dictionary. In other languages, we call it a hash map. Like in Java, it's called a hash map. In JavaScript, it's still JSON because it's literally in the name, JavaScript. All right, so just a quick example. A JSON will start and end with a brace, a curly bracket or a brace, or it can be a list. And usually you would have, not usually, always, you have a key value pair. That's the whole point. Key value. This thing, there's a key and the corresponding value for that key is this. So this is a very simple JSON here. It has a user information. It has name being the key, John Doe being the name. Age is 30, is student is false, right? Key value, key value, key value. And this literally is the most basic JSON. It can be empty. Sometimes when you make an API call, you might get a response like this. This is also JSON, but it doesn't have any data in it. It's empty, right? Let me move back. It could also be a list, an array. You can get it, especially in RESTful APIs. When you make a call, you could get your data this way. This is also a valid JSON. If you're parsing this as a JSON in your program, it will be valid and the system will be able to process it. So I just want to show you that. So this is a very, very simple thing to understand. This is a JSON key value pair, but it can grow. That's the thing. That's what I want to show you so you don't get confused. But at the very basic level, it's like this. If we look at it, another one is, let's say you have nested. Remember, it's key value, key value. The key is typically a string, most of the time a string, but it could also be a number. So it's either a string or a number. It can be another dictionary as a key. But the value could be another kind of data types. It can be a number, it can be a string, it can be another JSON, it can be an array. So the value can be anything. And that is called nested, right? So when we look at this guy here, we have user being the key. And the value is actually another dictionary or JSON. I'm a Python guy, so I'm tempted to say dictionary, but it's another JSON basically inside of the value. So if we collapse it, first of all, how I have this opened is in Sublime Text. If you don't have Sublime Text installed, I suggest you do that. It's very useful. It's just a text editor. If you have like Notepad, it's pretty much like Notepad. It's much more lightweight. But it is really for programmers, so it knows syntax highlighting. And if you want to do like more things to it, there's plugins for it. There's a lot of things you can do. I barely use it just to open up simple files. I have a JSON file, I just want to open it, I open it. If I have like some kind of text file or even code like a Python script and I don't want to open a full IDE like VS Code or PyCharm or something, I just open it in Sublime. So it doesn't really hurt. It's a very lightweight application. So I think you should have it. And it looks cool. If you go on an interview, you mention the word Sublime, or you're sharing your screen and it shows your applications and Sublime shows up there, you look like a developer. You look like you work with, development tools. So it's kind of nice to have a Sublime. So that's all it is. I just opened it in Sublime. In fact, the way I saved those, I think I just saved them as text files. So the syntax, let me actually try that. I'm going to say save as, and I'm going to say .json. So I'm going to save it as .json. I should have done that for all of them. The color changed. You see that? Because Sublime Text knows what the JSON is, so it will give us syntax highlighting. Same here. I'm going to do save as. I probably should have done this before the video, but .json, that's okay. As you can see, key value, key value, key value, and depending on what data type it is, the color changes. It looks like by default it's using green for strings, orange for numbers, and red for booleans. All right, so going back to here, you have the user, and if I collapse it, that is just one key and one value, but the value happens to be another dictionary or another JSON. So I'm going to expand it. Then I can see inside of this is the key. That itself has a bunch of key value. You have ID that, name is that, contact is this. Now contact is a key, and again another JSON as part of the value. So inside of this we have the first key and you have the value here. Inside of that value it happens to be a dictionary, and inside of that dictionary we have ID this, that, and contact another JSON. Then we're going to expand that, and that one has email, phone. See how it's organized? So this is called a nested. This JSON is nested inside of this JSON, and this JSON itself is nested inside of the main JSON. Okay, so you can have nested. So you just have to go slow. When you get this data, you just have to go really slow and just look at, hey, what level am I? Because when you're doing it manually like this visually, it's really easy to see. You can say, oh, I have the user and I have the email right here. Bam, you just get it. But when you're doing this programmatically in your Python code, in your automation, whatever language you're writing, then you have to know exactly what level it's in. So you go and extract it. That's really what you're doing when you're programming, is you have a data formatted in a certain way, whatever the format is. Your job is to look at that data and go and basically extract the stuff you need. So you're going to say, give me the value for user, give me the value for contracts, and then give me the value for email. Okay, so that's why you need to know that you can be nested. So let's look at a few other examples. This is another one. Again, if I save it as JSON, we can get a little bit of coloring. All right, it's nice. .json. All right, so here we can see that it's a JSON because it starts with a brace and ends with a brace. It could have been an array also. Then if we collapse it, we have just one key, and that key, what is the value for that key? The value for that key is a list or an array, right? That's a valid in JSON. You can have an array as a value. When you look at the array, we have two elements in the array. We have two JSONs inside of it. So an array, if you have a square bracket like that, that's called an array, or a list if you have a Python background. So in Python we call it a list. In other languages, pretty much in all languages, we call it an array. And it's a list of items. So an array of items. So in this case, key is courses, value is a list, and then each course, I guess, would be a JSON itself. So if we expand that, we have two of them. There's a title and the title, duration and 10 hours, right? So if we go to here, we have the title, API testing, duration, 8 hours, right? So we have nested again. The big JSON is like this, and we have the key. The value is an array. Inside of an array, there are more dictionaries in there. You can keep going. Inside of this dictionary, you can have other one that says students, and inside of students, I can have another array that has a list of, John. I can have Mary, things like that, right? Just another list, another array nested inside of this dictionary, which is nested inside of this array, which is nested inside of this JSON. Okay, so that is really what I want to show you. I'll show you some bigger ones that we actually use in APIs, but I also want to show you the difference between JSON and XML. Going forward, all the APIs we're going to use, they're going to give us JSON. We already saw it was one of the APIs. In fact, if I just pull that up right here, this is the trivia API. When we make this call saying get us a trivia questions, we got a JSON, right? We have a curly brace open, and it's pretty big one, and there's curly brace closed right here because we got like we specify 2000. If we specify 1000, well, let's specify just one, and make the call, right? So this should make a lot simpler. This should make a lot of sense because we saw a simpler example. So that's what the API gives us, JSON. So that's why we need to learn how to read JSON. But SOAP API, so we're dealing with REST API, RESTful API. But if you were to run into SOAP API, that will be an XML format. The request will be XML, the response will be XML. And XML is like HTML. If you're familiar with HTML, you should know XML. XML is easy. So you just have an opening tag like this. So with this less than sign, and then a closing tag would be the same exact tag, but a slash. That if you see a slash, that means it's closing. Then you have the big one, like an envelope, and inside of it, there's another envelope that says name, close name. You see the slash here, there's a name. age 30, is student false. So this will be the same as representing this guy, right? If I take this out, this JSON and this XML, they represent the same data, but which one is nicer to see? Which one is easier to parse? Obviously the JSON is. That's why JSON blew up. JSON became super popular. So I just want to show you what an XML look like. Another XML is just like that. You have the user, you have the ID, you have the name, and you can still nest it. Again, you have contact, and inside of the contact, you have the email, and that is a nested XML. I think this would be very much similar to this JSON here, but this is an XML format, the same set of data formatted or packaged differently as JSON and as XML. We're not going to use much XML or any XML at all in this course. We're just going to focus on JSON. So let's look at real JSON. We're going to get to WooCommerce API. We're going to practice APIs with WooCommerce. And one of the responses when you have an error, when you have a 404, when you're trying to make an API code for something that doesn't exist, the response will look like this. It's a JSON, there's a code that has this particular code right here. If you're testing this will be something you will validate. You say, hey, when there's an error, do I get a response first of all? Is the status code 404, second of all? And third, what does the body look like? Okay, did I get a JSON? Yes. Is there a key called code? Yes. What is the value? Oh, it should be this. Is there a key called message? Yes. What's the value? Should be this. Is there a key data? Yes. What's the value? Oh, it's another JSON. Inside of that JSON, is there a status key? Yeah. What's the value 404, right? So this is how it's going to look like when we get it. This is another response. Look how big this is. I'm just going to scroll all day, right? This is just a response that says list products. This is WooCommerce is an API for e-commerce website, right? You probably already created it. I hope you did. That test site we have locally that we create so we can practice. So if you make an API call saying, hey, give me a list of products, this is what it's going to look like. See, it starts with a list right here, and then there is a dictionary in there. If we collapse that, there is 1, 2, 3, 4. If we can keep collapsing, there's a lot of them, right? Depending on how many you specified. Usually by default, it will give you 10. That's something we're going to talk about later. But when you look at one of the items, one of the products, there's key value, the ID, the name, the permalink. It should be like price somewhere. There's SKU, the price, the regular price, the sale price, right? All of those are key value. Then there should be some nested stuff. Like for the dimensions is another JSON, which has the length, the width, and the height. When we look at categories, it's another list. Inside of the list is an array. Inside of the array, there is more JSONs, nested JSONs, right? That's how it works. So that's really real life. When we look how nested, how deep this thing is nested. There's links and there's self, then there's another dictionary. Inside of the dictionary, there's another dictionary. Inside of that dictionary, there's a list, right? It is nested multiple levels. When you want to validate if it's doing the right thing, that's what you're going to look for. Or how deep do I need to go? What if I want to get the allow methods? How do I get to it? I have to go to the links first, then I have to go to the self first, then I have to go to the first item in the self, then I have to go to target hints and things like that. Okay, so the point of understanding how the structure is so that you can go and find the information you want to find. So I just want to briefly go over what a JSON looks like. This is literally what a JSON is. Let me save real quick. I'm going to say save as. And I'm going to do, it's not even saved. I can say sample.json. I'm just going to leave it like that. And when you have, if I was to open this in like text editor or even on Windows on Notepad, then you wouldn't see these colors, right? So it's kind of nice to work. And you won't even be able to do this collapse expand thing. You won't be able to do that in a normal editor, in a normal text editor. But something that knows code will allow you to do that. Okay, so that's actually, I talked more than I thought I would, but that is introduction to JSON. Now let's go ahead and go back to APIs and work with APIs, and we're actually going to work with JSON data when we work with APIs. So I'll see you on the next one.